Hello guys, my name is Alex and welcome back for AOR, this time for the Spanish Grand Prix. And my feelings about this track were mixed. My pace seemed to be quite good, but it took me a long time to find the working setup, especially in the race. And unfortunately I didn't really have too much time to practice. I just had the Sunday to find the setup and to build my pace. So yeah, not too great, but I knew the pace was there, and here you can see the qualifying in general. We have a dry qualifying and a dry race for the most part, just like in Baku, and there might be a bit of rain at the end, so we have to see how that goes. Here you can see one of my first runs, and you might also be able to see that I backed off of the first run just because I really didn't want to start on the supers. They are quite a bad tire for the race, although they give you quite a bit of pace in the qualifying, but they are already overheating in lap 3 or 4, so we opted to go for the softs in our fast run, which are the much better compound, although they also have tire overheating problems. I think after lap 4 or 5 they are over 100 degrees, so yeah, we have to save them probably at some point of the race, especially when we're in dirty air. And the lap in general wasn't ideal, I think. I can do 16.3 with a good lap on softs, but you can see we are a slight bit down. I think our super softs lap without the backing off would probably be a 16.1 or 16.0, so yeah, we can't really match that as you'd expect, and we are here at the third sector. It wasn't ideal, we didn't really nail the lap perfectly. Also the second part of the chicane wasn't ideal, so we are going over the line with a 16.6 at the end, which wasn't ideal. We are starting, as you can see, in P8, which is not too bad, but on the other hand, yeah, it will be tricky to improve on that. Our teammate is in P10, so we are starting not too far away from him. You can see there are two super soft runners as well, so we might have a chance to get those, but yeah, it also depends on how good our start will be. And here we have 5 red lights, and lights out, and away we go. And it seems that we got a really good start compared to Nervo on our left, and we were able to get past, but unfortunately you can see one of the McLarens, I think Flores, blocked our way, so Nervo was able to get back past again. And I think in the first few laps he also is might be quicker due to his tires, and you can see it's very close. We just try to find an empty space. You can see we got a slight squeeze from Alex, which was unfortunate. I don't know whether he knew that I was not alongside, but I tried to stay on the inside. As you can see, we are fighting now with Flores, and he was able to defend his position because his line in this corner was a bit better than ours. So we are in P7, which is not too bad. We gained a position and we were able to avoid any kind of contact. Speaking of which, I think Jarno dived on our inside into the hairpin, and I think he got a decent contact on his screen, which sent him wide, which is really unfortunate, but there was not much we could have done there. And unfortunately we lost a little bit of time there, and we are now a few tenths behind Flores. And fortunately you can see the cars ahead start fighting each other, so we were able to close the gap back down, and the whole time we were just tire saving. You can see our fastest lap wasn't that good. I think I can go probably half a second, maybe 6 tenths quicker, but yeah, it doesn't make too much sense when you push 2 laps and after that your tires will be over 105 degrees, and you can see just how wide we are going just because of the dirty air, and the tires are getting really hot. As you can see, Flores is overtaking Nervo, and I think he let us pass as well, which was very nice from him. He knew his supers will probably have a tough time in those laps. Starting in lap 3 and 4, you can see we already have over 100 degrees and we are on the softs, so yeah, that's just how bad our tire wear at the moment is, or not tire wear, the temperatures in general. And you can see this is actually quite a good example. We are just sliding over the fronts and we are backing off quite a bit just in order not to drive too fast around the corner, because if you do, you will get over 105 degrees, which is a point. I think 106 is problematic, 107. Those are the degrees where you are starting to have more or a significant amount of understeer and oversteer. So at the moment we're just waiting. There's not much we can do. Flores was able to catch the cars ahead. His pace seemed to be very strong as well, and so I decided to stick with him because I knew he is able to catch the cars ahead. And yeah, now it's just about getting the right spot. You can see the car ahead has supers on, so he might be struggling with his tires, and we are getting really close to him. We also have a nice gap to the cars behind us, but I think you might not see him at the moment. Deagle is on the medium tires, right behind I think Tim, and we might have to see how that goes. He has a good strategy. I think in general it's better to start in the mediums when the cars ahead are fighting, and now you can see Flores was fighting quite a bit with the Toro Rosso ahead, and I think he might get past on the straight. Or if he pits, yeah, he pits, so never mind. And we are now really close to Flores, and you can see he was weaving to say that yeah, we shouldn't fight at this point, and I weaved back to tell him that it's not really clever to fight because our pace is very similar. If I overtake him on the straight, he will overtake me in the next one, and I will overtake him in the one after this lap. So it doesn't make too much sense for us to fight. You can see a few laps later we are in lap 10 now, and we were able to close the gap to the cars ahead. We were quicker, and both of us were able to save our tires quite a bit. And yeah, it's good to see that although we didn't really have much training, we were able to fight the other guys. Again, we were backing off. We could have had a chance there, and I think especially in this lap it would have been a better decision to overtake, because I think my pace at the end was a slight bit better, because my setup was working very well at the end of the stints. And so I decided to stay out one more lap, and unfortunately this was another slight error because I underestimated my temperatures. You can see we were on 105 degrees, and I really tried to push this lap, but you can see the understeer and oversteer we got in the first few corners. It wasn't ideal. I thought maybe if Flores has problems on the mediums, which are quite difficult to handle in the first few parts of the lap because they aren't on temperatures, we might get past, but unfortunately you can see he was able to get the undercut, and we now have to deal with the cold tires, so he gained I think at least 1.5 seconds there. But I knew we could take his position because I think he had a penalty and we didn't have one, so if we can stay close to him we might have a chance. As you can see a few laps later, he was right behind Michael, which surprised me quite a bit because Michael's pace was also quite strong, and that was basically because Michael had front wing damage, and so he lost a lot of time especially in the corners, as you might expect, and we were able to close the gap back down, and in lap 21 we were right behind him. I think the damage he had was due to mistake with his equipment or the game, not too sure, and it's quite unfortunate for him because he doesn't deserve those mistakes, just like in Baku, where he had a really unfortunate race. But yeah, it's sometimes the way it goes, and we had the problem in China, so I think this championship in general, as we may overtake him on the straights quite easily, this championship in general is about consistent finishes and maybe not about winning or losing every single race. And yeah, you can see we were just over the 3-second mark of Flores ahead, and you can see as well that Deagle on the softs, as I said, he was on the better strategy and he was closing us quite a bit with his better tires. I think he was over a second quicker, which was no surprise to me. And one lap later he was really close. I was thinking about defending, simply because at some point his softs will be not better than our mediums, and you can see I was a little bit surprised how much he was gaining on the straight. Otherwise I would have defended the inside, but it was quite a surprise to me. But on the other hand, I really didn't want to fight him too much because I still had a slight chance of overtaking Flores ahead due to his penalty. So yeah, not ideal at the moment. I thought maybe if Deagle has the pace, he might catch Flores and they might start to battle, but unfortunately I think his tires were going off quite a bit because he was pushing really hard. And yeah, we just tried to stay very close. You can see we are pushing quite a bit using DRS and maximum engine modes just to stay close, and we were able to stay close to him. The gap was I think 1.1 seconds for a few laps, but then it started to rain, and unfortunately my setup wasn't perfect, if that makes sense. Wasn't perfect for the rain, and I also didn't really have much time to practice the wet. So yeah, I just lowered my pace a bit just to make sure I can go till the end. And 10 points for P5 is also a good result if no one ahead has penalties, and we might have to see about this in just a second. And we are driving really cautious. Now obviously the tires are in a good window because the track is colder, and we're just trying to survive till the end. The gap behind us was quite fine, and we also didn't have any kind of penalty. We had 2 warnings, but that was it. And you can see just how much understeer we got. It was really close there. We nearly dropped it, and yeah, Deagle was able to extend the gap, which was no real surprise to me. You can see just how much understeer we had, which tells me that yeah, my setup wasn't ideal for these conditions, but it's basically like Baku. It does make sense to use a setup which only works for 3 or 4 laps. And here we are at the end. NTG was able to win the race, but I think he had quite a lot of penalties, so you can see we were able to get still P4, which is actually quite a good result. And you can see unfortunately he got 9 seconds worth of penalties, and that dropped him to P5, so we get 12 points. Epic was able to win the race, so congrats to him, and Deagle had an amazing comeback drive, so congrats to him as well. And here you can see the drivers table after the first 5 rounds. We are currently in P5, which doesn't really reflect our pace so far, especially in Bahrain and China. We lost a lot of points, so yeah, it's looking promising for the future. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the race, this episode, and I hope to see you in the next one as well, and goodbye.